Tonight, hospitalizations fall even as the United States faces grim predictions over COVID deaths.
This is not news we all want to hear, but this is something we must say so we are all aware.
The fight against the pandemic and its economic impact. Plus,
if we had a list of the worst people to choose, certainly Javier Becerra would be at the top.
The push to confirm a controversial cabinet pick to head the Health and Human Services Department. And a look at the looming impeachment trial of President Trump. All this and more tonight on Faith Nation.
Hope the U.S. could be turning a corner with the COVID-19 pandemic. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Jenna Browder.
Good evening, and I'm John Jessup. Tonight, the latest on the coronavirus crisis in America. A bit of a mixed bag. Some good news, some bad news.
Now, nationwide, the number of cases and hospitalizations are going down, but deaths still rising. CBN's Eric Phillips is here now with the very latest. Eric?
Jenna and John, the nation's top coronavirus experts are predicting that 90,000 people will die in the United States in the next month alone from the coronavirus. Let that sink in for just one moment. 90,000 people in the next month. That's in addition to the more than 400,000 Americans who have already lost their lives to this disease.
I know this is not news we all want to hear, but this is something we must say so we are all aware.
That grim update coming from the new White House coronavirus team, sticking to the administration's promise to be straight with the American people. This as January goes down as the deadliest month on record for the pandemic.
Even though the message is sober about the fact that we're going to be seeing more cases and deaths in the future, the other message is now's the time to double down, and when vaccine becomes available, go get your vaccine.
But that may be more easily said than done.
It will be months before everyone who wants a vaccine will be able to get one. Any stockpile that may have existed previously no longer exists.
So far, some 20 million people have received their first dose of the vaccine. Many others still going without, like 94-year-old Edith Medford of Alabama, who tried waiting in line for a shot, but it was just too long.
We moved maybe 4 spaces in this line of cars until my mom said, I can't take it anymore. We have to go.
Now, more centers and more vaccine are on the way, with Moderna and Pfizer each committing to an additional 100 million doses.
As we get into February, March, and April, we're going to see an escalation of availability of doses that we may not have had a week or 2 or 3 ago.
Officials are hoping to expand access by changing the rules on who can administer vaccines, calling on recently retired doctors and nurses, while also allowing people licensed in one state to cross state lines if there's a need. Also, the administration is considering calling on up to 10,000 service members to help administer shots at vaccination centers across the country. Still, that might not be enough to reach some of the most vulnerable, particularly those in Black and Latino communities.
Many people don't have a car to drive to a high volume vaccination center. So where do they go? And the answer in many cases is there's nowhere to go.
Scientists are also working on a version of the vaccine to help fight a variant strain that's popped up in South Africa, in case Americans need a booster. Officials say the current vaccine isn't as effective against the South African strain as they'd like it to be.
Dr. Fauci says science is on the side of reopening schools, and he says that's because the virus seems to spread less in the halls of schools than it does in the greater community. But before that can happen, he says it's important for all teachers and staff members to get vaccinated. John and Jenna.
All right, Eric, thank you. A lot of parents, I'm sure, relieved to hear that. Well, the White House is still hoping for bipartisan Senate support of its $1.9 trillion COVID relief plan, though many Republicans say the measure costs way too much. White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki tweeting, "The need of the American people are urgent," adding that they aren't partisan issues. The message echoed by Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer.
This chamber must also consider additional relief for the American economy and the American people suffering from the prolonged effects of COVID-19. Congress must pursue a bold and robust course of action to defeat the disease, recover our economy, get our country back to normal.
And that call for relief comes as we see a drop in weekly unemployment claims. They're still historically high, though, because of the coronavirus and its strain on the economy. Last week, 847,000 Americans applied for unemployment benefits. That number down 67,000 from the week before. Economists say these numbers show that mass layoffs continue. Since February, the United States has lost 9.8 million jobs, including 140,000 in December.
Well, here with us now, Mark Hamrick, Washington Bureau Chief and Senior Economic Analyst at Bankrate. Mark, welcome back to Faith Nation. You just heard that report Jenna read, a decline in unemployment applications, though jobless claims are still incredibly high. You noted on Twitter today what a difference a year makes. What long-term impact, Mark, is the pandemic having on the economy?
Thank you, John. And let's put that in perspective. A year earlier, 200,000 claims in the similar week of January. And when you add the Pandemic Unemployment Assistance Program into those headline number programs that are administered by the states, we're talking about 1.3 million new claims in a week. 45 weeks into this economic downturn, and the Labor Department telling us today that more than 18 million Americans are on some form of unemployment insurance. So as Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell said this very week during his news conference, the effective unemployment rate in this country is still about 10%. And so that gives you an idea about the continuing devastating condition of the economy that is basically separating people from the income that they need to meet their basic needs.
Yeah. Mark, Senate Democrats say they're willing to go at it alone and bypass Republican support to get COVID relief passed. You know, from a financial standpoint, is that the best route? Don't they need at least some Republican buy-in here?
Well, politics and economics are completely separated in a discussion like this, because really what you have is the Democrats, in a sense, issuing a threat to say either you're with us or against us. And, you know, we've seen hardball on the other side of the aisle when the Republicans are in control of the Senate. It is interesting that the White House and, of course, the Senate Democratic leader Schumer are basically singing from the same hymnal. We're not really hearing much on the Republican side in terms of the moderates to say what they're willing to go along with. I think once we get past this rhetorical part of this, Joe Biden, being the former senator that he is going to want to get something passed that does have bipartisan support. I don't think they necessarily want to go nuclear on the legislative passage option just yet.
I love that singing from the same hymnal analogy, Mark. The Federal Reserve yesterday announced it'll keep interest rates low for the foreseeable future. Talk about how that's going to help Americans.
Well, the Fed has basically said it is going to prioritize lifting employment over worrying about inflation. In the past, they tended to be, I would say, more focused on inflation. And that means being ready to pull the trigger, raising interest rates, basically imposing a cost or a tax on the economy, and then the impacts that has on the job market. Ultimately, I think that as Americans all have something invested in the broader economy and the wish that we do see jobs come back, the Fed's basically saying we're going to look not only at that broader unemployment rate, but the people who may have been left behind by past expansions and do what they can to lift all these boats.
Mark, just about 30 seconds left here, but this week Janet Yellen was sworn in as Treasury Secretary. Your thoughts on her appointment?
Well, it's quite remarkable because obviously she's not only been the president's chief economic advisor in the past, but also the Federal Reserve chair. She is going to be quite an imposing figure when she goes to Capitol Hill and looks to lobby all members of Congress and the Senate to get legislation passed, and essentially agreeing with the person who succeeded her that they need to address what's ailing in the job market and the broader economy.
All right, Mark Hamrick with Bankrate. It's always good to see you. Thank you so much for joining us this evening.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mark. President Biden will reopen health care exchanges under the Affordable Care Act. With a stroke of his pen through another executive action today, the president is allowing people to enroll in Obamacare to expand health care coverage during the pandemic.
There's nothing new that we're doing here other than restoring the Affordable Care Act and restoring the Medicaid to the way it was before Trump became president. Of all times that we need to reinstate access to, affordability of, and extent of access to Medicaid is now in the middle of this COVID crisis.
The president directed the Department of Health and Human Services to begin special enrollment on healthcare.gov from February 15th through May 15th. According to Kaiser Family Foundation, some 9 million uninsured Americans could benefit from reopening the sign-up process for Obamacare. Well, with Democratic control of the White House and Congress, party progressives want to end the long-standing Hyde Amendment prohibiting federal taxpayer dollars from being used to pay for abortions.
Congress has renewed the law each year since 1976 in its annual budget bill. But that could be changing. CBN News Capitol Hill correspondent Abigail Robertson has more on why this could be the year.
For the first time in more than 40 years, House Democrats plan to drop the Hyde Amendment in the next appropriations bill, a move former Democratic Congressman Dan Lipinski warns is a terrible decision.
First of all, it's the morally wrong thing to do. But second, a wide majority of Americans do not want their taxpayer dollars being spent on abortion.
Congressman Lipinski was an outspoken pro-life Democrat during his 8 terms in Congress. He says that stance cost him his seat.
I know how powerful Planned Parenthood, NARAL, and others are, and they spent $6 million against me in the last 2 primaries, and in the 2020 primary, I lost narrowly.
Democratic Congresswoman Rosa DeLauro, who chairs the House Appropriations Committee, is calling for an end to the policy, arguing it prevents low-income women from being able to get abortions.
Roe versus Wade is the law of the land, yet for too long, some women in this country have been denied their right to an abortion. The Hyde Amendment is a discriminatory policy.
As a senator, President Biden supported keeping the measure in place, then changed his tune on the 2020 campaign trail. White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki was asked last week what he plans to do about it now, and she said this.
I will just take the opportunity to remind all of you that he is a devout Catholic and somebody who attends church regularly. He started his day attending church with his family this morning, but I don't have anything more for you on that.
Lipinski tells CBN News he thinks it's unlikely Biden has to make a decision on it this year.
I think it would be very, very difficult for Congress, either the House or especially the Senate, to pass an appropriations bill that did not contain the Hyde Amendment. I don't think this is a foregone conclusion. 200
House Republicans vowed not to support any budget bill that leaves out the Hyde Amendment. They argue doing so would destroy nearly a half-century of bipartisan consensus. Reporting from Washington, Abigail Robertson, CBN News.
Thank you, Abby. Coming up, why some say the Biden White House will be the most pro-abortion administration to date, when Faith Nation returns.
Introducing the CBN Bible from CBN.com. Now, an easier way to study the Bible and grow in your faith. Highlight your favorite verse. Read separate versions at a glance. Click and read a commentary. Or cross-reference your favorite verse using the Strong's Concordance. All the right tools to study the Bible, all in one place. The CBN Bible, available at cbn.com/Bible or the iTunes App Store.
This is CBN Newswatch. Thanks for joining us. Watch breaking news, exclusive stories and programs, credible news reporting.
We show you what's happening in the world and how you can pray about it.
This is CBN Newswatch, because truth matters. Weekdays at 5 on the CBN News Channel.
Superbook fans, here's something else you'll love. It's the new Superbook Bible app. It's packed with games, activities, and Superbook episodes that you can watch for free. Oh no! There's trivia, a fun daily devotional, and answers to your Bible questions. Plus, an easy-to-understand Bible the whole family will enjoy. You can even create your own Superbook character. Ta-da! Whoa!
The Millsburg Falls man coming.
Sorry, pardon me. Sorry, excuse me. Ow!
Are you getting this?
Earn super points to win daily prizes, too. And so much more! Time to get back to my adventures. See you soon! It's the new Superbook Bible app. Free downloads on iTunes, Google Play, and Amazon.
And welcome back. Today, President Biden signed an executive order that will end a domestic pro-life measure on the world stage.
As Paul Strand reports, it centers on spending taxpayer money to promote or pay for abortions abroad.
Outrage is the early reaction among pro-life activists to President Biden following in his former boss's footsteps by letting American funds go once again to push abortions overseas. Biden's becoming the latest Democrat to reverse the Mexico City policy that forbade that.
It is incredibly tragic that the Biden administration has departed from the Trump administration's position, which, by the way, is in line with 75% of Americans that do not want their tax dollars to be sent abroad in order to fund abortion in other countries.
For the administration to want to be a champion of abortion is extremely disappointing, and it's really out of step with what the American people want.
And indeed, that's borne out by new polling from the Marist organization.
77% of Americans overall, a slight uptick from a year ago, as well as 64% of pro-choice Americans and 55% of Democrats oppose taxpayer funding to support abortions abroad.
That we're talking $100 million, by the way, in which our tax dollars are spent and U.S. policy is used to coerce other countries, poor countries, to adopt the most liberal policies on abortion.
What this meant during the Obama years is if your nation wanted money for reproductive care, you had to align your laws with America's pro-abortion laws and regulations. Pro-life advocates see this as taking away the right of American taxpayers to refuse to have anything to do with abortion.
You know, it looks like a threat to freedom, and it really looks like misplaced priorities, when in fact there are issues of real health care that could be addressed and need to be addressed.
American pro-life people of faith have got to lock arms and push back.
Paul Strand, CBN News, Washington.
On a related note, President Biden's pick to head Health and Human Services is facing criticism for his pro-abortion stances.
CBN White House correspondent Ben Kennedy has this look at why some pro-life advocates plan to oppose the nomination of Javier Becerra.
To build back a prosperous America, we need a healthy America.
Javier Becerra comes to this role after more than 20 years in Congress and succeeding Kamala Harris as California Attorney General. Now he's preparing for his new role in leading the agency most involved with regulating abortion. That worries pro-life advocates.
If we had a list of the worst people to choose, certainly Javier Becerra would be at the top of the list.
Nance calls Becerra a pro-abortion activist based on his court cases.
There's the famous Supreme Court case of NIFLA versus Becerra, in which Javier Becerra was trying to force crisis pregnancy centers to promote abortion. We had to take that case all the way to the Supreme Court.
Critics have lined up to fight the nomination. In a tweet, Senator Tom Cotton said Becerra spent his career attacking pro-life Americans. Congressman Dan Crenshaw agreed, calling Becerra the worst possible cabinet choice. The Susan B. Anthony list went further, saying Becerra is aggressively pro-abortion and a foe of free speech. And not all in Biden's own party might be on board with the appointment. Kristen Day of Democrats for Life tells CBN News some congressional Democrats will fight some of the administration's pro-abortion policies. Becerra's qualifications are also in question, with critics saying the 62-year-old is not a medical professional and has no public health experience. The new commander-in-chief disagrees, though, highlighting Becerra's effort on health care and fighting to protect the Affordable Care Act. Rick Pollock, president and CEO of the American Hospital Association, calls Becerra a champion for affordable health access and coverage and the right person to lead the nation through the pandemic.
And they're going to be ready on day one to spare not a single effort to get this pandemic under control.
Given the current COVID picture, combined with Democrats barely controlling the Senate, Becerra is expected to be confirmed despite likely Republican opposition over issues like abortion. Ben Kennedy, CBN News, Washington.
Thanks Mike's been pushing back against impeachment. Up next, the growing call against the upcoming Senate trial and what Democrats say could be an alternative.
When I came to Regent University, it's like the world opened up. I felt like I needed to advance my career and go back to school. Regent was a perfect fit for me. The Regent professors are world class. You are equipped. The focus of the faculty is on each individual student, whether it's online or in person. You become a part of Regent's family. You carry with you not just the content and the knowledge, but the confidence to understand that we can be significant in the world.
Regent University. Follow your path.
Nigerian Christians
in Iran are routinely arrested.
Happily, Christians continue to suffer.
In times of trial and affliction, you need to know the truth.
One of the fastest growing Christian populations in the world.
Join Wendy Griffith and George Thomas for Christian World News.
Young people are the ones who are open to the gospel.
Powerful stories of suffering and hope that affect all Christians. Watch Christian World News, Saturday at 5 p.m. Get Protect Your Sleep and discover how to improve the quality of your life. A free DVD or booklet from the Christian Broadcasting Network.
If you're not a great sleeper, you can do things to make yourself a great sleeper. If you're already a pretty good sleeper, you can enhance your sleep and be even better.
5 leading experts help remove the obstacles between you and restorative sleep.
When you don't get a restful night's sleep, you wake up with an accumulation of stress.
Call 1-800-700-7000 or go to cbn.com to get your free DVD or booklet today.
Everything you do better with a good night's sleep.
You'll discover how food affects your sleep, how to put insomnia to rest, explore effective remedies for sleep apnea, and much more in Protect Your Sleep. Wake up to your best life and get Protect Your Sleep today. Call 1-800-700-7000 or go to cbn.com to get your free DVD or booklet.
Welcome back. Democrats may pursue a dual-track approach in the impeachment trial of former President Donald Trump. They're considering a censure resolution as an option if the Senate fails to convict him for his part in inciting the deadly January 6 Capitol Hill riot. Censure does not carry the weight of a conviction, but would formally hold President Trump accountable, according to Virginia Senator Tim Kaine. Support for censure has only grown after Tuesday's vote challenging the constitutionality of a trial. The effort failed 55-45, far short of the 67 votes needed for conviction.
Many Senate Republicans view the impeachment trial as unconstitutional. They say you can't impeach a president who's no longer in office.
It's an issue that's divided top legal scholars. CBN's Jennifer Wishon explores both sides of the debate.
While President Trump is the only commander-in-chief to be impeached a second time, does the U.S. Senate have the authority to convict Donald Trump, the private citizen, and prevent him from ever holding public office again? That's the question constitutional scholars on both sides are weighing in on.
It's not a high crime and misdemeanor.
Harvard law professor Alan Dershowitz served on Trump's legal team during the first impeachment and believes this second attempt is even more bogus. He says the Constitution protects the speech Trump used before the riots.
You know how many people have stood where he stood and advocated marching on the Capitol? Union leaders, civil rights leaders, to turn it from good to bad, members of the Ku Klux Klan, members of the Nazi Party, communists, suffragettes. That's a standard tactic. You get up and you say, go to the Capitol.
And now that the House has voted to impeach, the question remains, does the Senate have the power to convict a president after he leaves office and becomes a private citizen? The Constitution states, judgment in cases of impeachment shall not extend further than to removal from office and disqualification to hold and enjoy any office of honor, trust, or profit under the United States. Trump can no longer be removed from office. That part, however, is not the ultimate goal for House Democrats.
One of the other purposes of impeachment in this case is to make sure that President Trump is not able to run for federal office again, that he's not able to seek the presidency.
Some scholars argue the Senate has authority to approve that. According to Harvard professor Lawrence Tribe, judgments of removal from office and disqualification from running in the future are divisible and backed up by precedent in the impeachment cases of 2 federal judges. But Professor Dershowitz maintains it's removal and disqualification, not one or the other. Without having someone to remove, he says, senators can't then disqualify now Mr. Trump from running for office in the future.
And under the Constitution, you can't impeach or remove somebody who's not in office. The impeachment power of the Senate extends only to sitting office holders.
If Democrats remain united, they'll need at least 17 Republicans to vote with them to convict the president. Given its unprecedented nature and disagreement over the constitutional powers allowed, there is a good chance this case will end up before the Supreme Court. Jennifer Wishon, CBN News.
Christians around the world are standing with the Israelis. But why? In CBN's free magazine, Friends of Israel, you'll discover why Christians are supporting the Jewish state, how Israel is fulfilling prophecy as a light to the nations, and ways you can pray for the people of Israel. Israel needs the support of friends like you. Call now or go to cbn.com to get your free copy of Friends of Israel.
Heavenly Father, we do thank you for the work of your Spirit, Lord God, with this movement of getting the Bible,
yes,
Lord, into public schools.
Watch The Prayer Link, Tuesday nights at 6:30.
Hey, if you're tired and exhausted all day, you can't think clearly, and you really just need a cup or even a pot of coffee to get through your day, then join me, Dr. Josh Axe, for this new series where I'm going to teach you how to transform your diet and use essential oils and supplements to get a better night's sleep.
Get Protect Your Sleep and live your best life with innovative information from 5 leading sleep experts.
If you're not a great sleeper, you can do things to make yourself a great sleeper. If you're already a pretty good sleeper, you can enhance your sleep and be even better.
Discover a sleep-enhancing bedtime routine, how to put insomnia to rest, learn how to relieve pain that disturbs sleep, and much more in Protect Your Sleep.
Everything you do better with a good night's sleep.
Wake up to your best life. Call 1-800-700-7000 to get your free DVD or booklet of Protect Your Sleep today.
Don't miss out on this brand new series.
Finally tonight, if you've ever heard of the term show stealer, well, that now applies to Senator Bernie Sanders, the unlikely star of the inauguration purely because of his practically sensible, weather-appropriate attire.
Yeah, he was just sitting there, but now the Vermont lawmaker is using his viral moment to help his home state. Shortly after the inauguration, the internet went crazy, photoshopping a picture of the senator and his now famous mittens into everyday situations. And now Sanders is getting in on the action himself, selling shirts featuring the photo on his campaign website. To date, the senator has raised nearly $2 million in merchandise sales, all of it going to back various Vermont charities. Cool. You know, for a couple of days there, it's all I saw on my social media. It's kind of died down at this point, but it's big.
Great stuff. Thanks for watching.
Have a great night.